And now, please join me at the table, gentlemen. No, women, gentlemen. Vi fortsætter lidt på engelsk, hvis det er okay med jer. De af jer, som føler, at det er lige en lille smule for grænseoverskridende at skulle begynde at stå og huske sit skoleengelsk, når I skal stille spørgsmål, må meget gerne stille det på dansk også. Så finder vi også ud af det. What I'm saying in Danish is that we'll continue in English as far as we can get, and we'll see what happens in order to show some consideration to our English-speaking guests. I have moved out of my seat because it's so overwhelming, the panel now, that I'll have to move. And we have not exactly, we have almost 20 minutes for questions. So please let me see some hands. There's a lot of them. There's one there and there, yes. I think we should continue stating who we are and what we do. And like I said, if you feel like it, ask the question in Danish and I'll translate.
Bjarne Andresen, I'm a professor of physics at the Niels Bohr Institute. It was most refreshing to hear the youngest contributors earlier this afternoon as opposed to the petrified minds of the morning. I would like to emphasize that there is a major difference between what's illegal and what's wrong.
Bjarne, du skal have mikrofonen helt op.
There's a major difference. Yeah, okay. There is a major difference between what's illegal and what is wrong. And it is at any time important for the law people, the lawmakers, to reflect the attitude of the people at the time. That attitude changes. And here we have an instance where the lawmakers are dragging dramatically behind. So I very well understand that a lot of people do not want to support this monopoly. As a researcher and publisher of articles in physics, I do all the writing, paid by the Danish taxpayers. I do refereeing for other people, for journals. And if I want to see the product of this, if my colleagues want to see it, they have to pay the publishers. I can do all the work, paid by Danish people. They reap all the profits. That does not seem to be right or reasonable. So my question to the panel is, how do you envision bringing the law up to the general opinion of what is right and wrong? You'll never go to enforce laws on people that they don't believe in.
Would you have the same attitude towards tax legislation? You should always ask the taxpayers how much tax to pay?
That's your answer. Anybody else wants to make a comment on that? Please.
I think you're right on the money here, sir. That we could see this in the last election in Sweden, when again the Pirate Party became the largest party for people under 30, and that just swept the entire establishment by surprise. That they thought an entire generation were prepared to vote to get stuff just for free, rather than vote for jobs or get tax breaks or other forms of economic incentives, ironically. But there's a very important perception of fairness here. Who gets the money? If you ask a music buyer, and I'm talking about a record buyer, if they think it's fair that the artist gets breadcrumbs at best from when they go out and buy a very expensive CD, the music publisher gets no sympathy at all. I understand that many music lovers are actually looking for an alternative which gives the money to the artist rather than to the middleman. And this is what I was talking about in my talk, that there's a very well-established ensemble of corporate dinosaurs here that no longer provide any value in the value chain, but are trying to legislate their right to a large cut of the pie. And I think that's very problematic, and that has no support in public opinion, just like you say, sir.
Yeah, anybody else?
Sure.
Yeah.
Quick answer. I guess I would expand the ambit of the question, sympathetic to your remarks, which is that, at least in the U.S., where it's very much the politics you get or what you pay for, and so the structure is that you have a large class of people who are disserved in a small concentrated class who can lobby, and so you end up with the legislation you would expect, for example, adding 20 years on the copyright. So I guess, to be honest, I would say civil disobedience, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing a generation which are, it's not that they're not knowledgeable, right? The music industry, the film industry are going out of their way because they need to legally. It's part of the logic of estoppel, right? To say, well, people know the law, and nevertheless, people who otherwise are law-abiding, right? So you don't have this sort of all hell breaks loose, right? People won't follow the law. That sort of argument hasn't worked because you don't see sort of associated other criminal activity with file sharing, et cetera. So I would say civil disobedience, and as the generation changes, they will vote. And, I think America, at this point, young America, I don't think would elect politicians on for those grounds, but, maybe that'll happen.
First of all, if I may be blunt, I'm not very impressed by, with all respect to the Pirate Party, by the number of votes you get for the European Parliament. I mean, the percentage of people who vote at the European Parliament are substantially lower than those who vote at the national parliaments. And also the parties that are on votes at the European Parliament are different parties with different agenda than at the national parliaments. So I think you have to measure the popularity of your viewpoints based on a national agenda as part of a national discussion, and not this quite peculiar parliament we have in Europe. With all respect, it serves different purposes than the parliament you have in a national setting. But then secondly, let me say that to make laws is not always a question of asking for good weather. We had a politician some years ago who was comedian, elected to the Danish parliament on an agenda that he wanted wind in the right direction on the bicycle lanes and good weather. And of course, he was elected into parliament. And there are other parties who have been very successful in taking stands on particular issues like immigration, low taxes, get away with certain pension schemes, førtidspension as we call it. And it's very popular and they get many votes. But what I respect personally from politicians are politicians who can take an overview and say, this is the program that we are going to be voted upon, and not just one-time cases. And copyright is a very difficult area of law. It's not just a question of saying yes or no to copyright. I believe everybody thinks there should be some kind of copyright. What we're discussing here are extremely complicated rules on what copyright should apply in this particular and that particular situation. And that's not something you can go and vote on. So now we want to be elected for a parliament who should be able to solve any questions in society on this specific agenda. So I must say that when I hear the question of we have 30% of the voters who are behind us, I'm not that impressed. I'm much more impressed by a program where you have solutions to different parts of the problems that occur in a society. Now I have the word. I would also like to make some comments to what Thomas, my good colleague, mentioned about former threats to copyright. And he mentioned photography, radio, photocopying, and now at the latest, file sharing. I think the copyright law, the copyright law system in the Scandinavian countries have actually been able to tackle all of these challenges in a very prudent way. Because it is a fact that radio has harmed the record industry. It is also a fact that photocopying has harmed the publishing industry. And it is certainly a fact that the internet as such has harmed the newspaper industry. But in all these regards, except for the internet and except for file sharing, we have found solutions in the Scandinavian countries, like the extended collecting licensing scheme, where you pay to an organization, which then pays out to the right holders. And that's extremely important to say that in that way, for example, the record companies who are getting paid by Gramex, to take one example, it is today, with the threats they're facing on their record sales, a substantial revenue they get from this collecting society. And that is an example of a legislative solution to a crucial problem in society that you would never be able to get voted on putting such a program, but which I respect much more.
You could argue that that's a bit of an arrogant viewpoint, because you say that the population of Europe is not yet ready to vote about it sounds like something I've heard before from countries that I don't approve of very much.
What I said was that when you are having a vote for the European Parliament, it is a fact that the percentage of people who are voting at all is very low.
But you also said that this was very complicated and not something that you should vote about.
And then I say that, no, I didn't say that. I said that, I'm thankful for correcting that misunderstanding. I'm saying that you cannot go and vote on one particular point, only that.
Why not?
Without
this
taking
is a democracy as well as the Danish Parliament.
Because you can take a referendum on it, which I would support right away. Because you're going to vote for a party who the one day is going to discuss tax legislation, social security, pension schemes. Isn't it? Yes, but then you have a party who goes on vote for one idea and nothing more.
Part of democracy.
But does it give a right balance to have a party who only has a viewpoint on one piece?
Okay.
They're faced with a lot of other. If that's arrogant, please call me arrogant.
Michael, you had a comment? And then there was a question over there.
Yeah, going back to the question about moral, I think Rick or Stephen has a point about it. If the young people don't understand the moral implicance with this, they only see a artist who creates art, and they want to use that art, and then we have all this complicated discussion. They don't understand it. Why should we discuss it on such a level? It doesn't make sense to them. In desperation, they vote for a party, for a private party, that maybe they can create some sense to them. So they can they will fix it for us, and we will get what we basically just want. So it's more like a symptom of a not being able to understand what all this is about, I think.
Yes, and then there was a question over here.
Ja, tak. Jeg hedder Bo Thiele, jeg kommer fra Copydan Billedkunst. Jeg taler på dansk, jeg håber, at jeg kan blive tilgivet. Jeg vil gerne først sige tak til Kim for lidt stærk tobak her på sådan en ellers fredelig torsdag. Det var jo bare skeløjer. Og hvor meget jeg nød Kims indlæg, så hørte jeg også noget, som måske lød en lille smule mærkeligt for mig. Det kan godt være, fordi jeg er ophavsretsjurist. Det, som Kim sagde, det var med en aftale med os, Copydan Billedkunst, så får man lov til at være lovlig, så at sige, med sine brug af billeder i undervisningen. Det er jo det, der ligger i en ophavsretlig licens, kan man sige. Men så hørte jeg også, at det er ikke rigtig noget, universiteterne måske går så meget op i, fordi man ikke er så bange for at blive opdaget. Jeg håber, jeg har hørt forkert, fordi jeg går ud fra, at universiteterne generelt har et behov for at være lovlige i alt det, man foretager sig. Det er jo lidt Peter Schønnings meget illustrative vejbud fra før. Altså, vi må være lovlige omkring det her. Jeg går heller ikke ud fra, at universiteterne stjæler kontorartikler til brug i undervisningen. Så snakker Kim lidt om de...
Har du et spørgsmål, vil jeg lige spørge?
Ja, det er lidt mere en kommentar, men nu synes jeg, nu gik det meget specifikt på Copydan Billedkunst, så jeg vil...
Men den kan I også tage over en kop kaffe. Det er bare fordi, jo mere vi inddrager hele salen, så hvis du tænker, der er et eller andet meget vigtigt, vi alle sammen skal høre. Det var ret vigtigt, alt sammen. Tak. Okay,
jeg skal prøve at gøre det så kort. Så kunne man prøve
spidsvinkle måske, som det hedder i
Jeg skal prøve at gøre det så kort, som jeg kan. Der er ikke så meget mere.
Godt.
Omkring det her med de ønsker, som universiteterne har til en aftale, der vil jeg bare nøjes med at genfremsætte den invitation, som Copydan Billedkunst allerede har udstrakt til danske universiteter. Kom ind, lad os mødes, lad os snakke om, hvordan en aftale kan se ud, og hvordan vi kan få gjort brugen af billeder i undervisning på universiteterne lovlig. Vi vil meget, meget gerne mødes og snakke om det. Så var der den sidste ting lidt omkring vores navn. Vi er jo ret glade for at hedde Copydan Billedkunst. Du er måske ikke så imponeret. Man kan sige, at vi har jo opnået aftaler med det meste af undervisningssektoren med det navn, så helt skidt er det måske ikke, men Vi kan altid gøre det bedre, altid ret med det konstruktiv kritik. Så vi har en lille brochure, jeg håber Kim vil tage med tilbage til Aarhus og kigge lidt nærmere på sammen med sin rektor. Der er her. Og så glæder jeg til, at vi snakkes ved.
Tak skal du have. Og det er jo rigtigt, der var jo specielt adresse til jer, så det er jo, du har fuldstændig ret, I skal selvfølgelig have lov at give igen med samme mønt, og det har I fået, og hvad skal du lige knytte en kommentar?
Jeg er glad for, at du er her, fordi jeg var så skrækslagen for, at der ikke skulle være nogen fra billedkunst, så havde jeg jo slet ikke nogen at snakke med. Altså, jeg giver dig fuldstændig ret i, at universitetsledelserne egentlig lever med, at de lever i en ikke-retstilstand. Og det er ikke sådan, at de ikke gerne vil det, men de vil det måske ikke sådan lige her og nu, og i de her vilkår, og måske har I heller ikke serveret den rigtige aftale for dem.
Men Kim, må jeg så ikke også stoppe dig, når jeg nu er så grov at stoppe vores tilhører, fordi det lyder nemlig som om, det er noget, I rigtig gerne vil begge to, og kaffen kommer lige om et øjeblik. Er det okay? Fordi jeg vil gerne nå nogle flere spørgsmål, og der er et her, kan jeg se. Oh, sorry. We'll switch back to English. This was intern Danish. I don't know. I'll explain to you later on. I think you missed something, but I'll tell you what you missed. Okay? Thank you. Okay, we'll switch back to English.
I'll do it in English. My name is Nana Tilstrup. I'm from University of Copenhagen, and I have two questions. The first one is the discourse on young people and morals, whether that actually belongs here, because is it not more a question of knowledge? So your mother will think that she will get busted, and young people will know that they will not, or most likely not. But the moral discussion might not be more flawed with young people than with older people. And the second question is net neutrality. Does that play a part in these discussions? Will that affect copyright problems?
I'll take the second question first. Net neutrality is hugely important to the growth and future jobs of Europe. And we see this being under attack by essentially yesterday's industries who like the status quo, who like the fact that they are currently in control. Is everybody here familiar with the concept of net neutrality?
Could you very briefly explain what that is? Because
Okay.
some of us may not know.
Net neutrality is the concept that the net does not show you how big a player is on the other side of the wire. You don't know if you're communicating with CNN.com the size of a garage or the size of a 400-pound gorilla on the other side of the Atlantic. And essentially, the net doesn't know what is what. It's just dumb. It forwards bits from the source to the destination. So that means anybody can set up a newspaper and appear very big without being big. And conversely, a large newspaper can appear sloppy on the net. The ability for somebody to start an entrepreneurship in a garage and immediately appear credible is essential to the future jobs of Europe. And this is under attack by current players who are trying to hamper the net and attack messenger immunity, attack the postal secret, and essentially turn the net back into a distribution mechanism where only a small self-selected elite has the right to transmit information, essentially turn it into a cable TV network, a one-directional cable TV network. So going from that to the first question about morals. Law is code. Code is law. Law is moral codified. The young people's morals will become law in a generation. The problem is what happens in the meantime.
Yeah, Michael?
Wanted to add a comment with the net neutrality. Like today, we are just distributing files on the normal internet, but actually now, when we see a lot of companies trying to develop technology to find file sharing people. There are also a lot of people trying to figure out methods to hide themselves, and those guys are actually pretty successful. So they are about to create a whole new set of technology which can hide everybody on the net from anybody. That technology is created by young, brilliant people who are just doing it to see a movie. But you're not, if you like a criminal, you can use the same technology just to hide yourself from everybody. It's the same technology we use to monitor criminals as we're going to use to monitor file sharing if we're going to implement this. So we're really creating a powerful weapon for criminals, while if you're making file sharing criminal on the internet, we're trying to monitor it. So just as an engineer.
Thank you. Anybody else who wants to pose a question? Did I scare you off? No, I didn't. Please.
My name is Kjell Simonsen. I'm from a small research company called RAP. We created the internet in Denmark and helped do it in Europe. So we're the ones who did this. I'm sorry. I'm to blame. I have a question on the education part, and it's on fair use. I wonder why the universities need agreements when there are citation fair use stipulations in Danish copyright law, and also in other laws, other nations' laws that apply to the Berne Convention. Why do you need an agreement when you are allowed to make citations of up to 10% of a work? You could do that in your presentations when you teach, and also the students can do it when they make their essays. They are allowed to cite up to 10% of a work, and with proper reference. What is the problem? Thank you.
Morten?
Because according to Danish copyright law, you cannot quote a pictorial work in its entirety. Or you cannot quote from a pictorial work, and also you cannot quote a work in its entirety. So there are two reasons why you need it. If it's a picture, you cannot take a picture and say this is a quotation.
Yes. Anyone else before we have coffee? One last question. Yeah, there's one down there.
I'm sorry to sing this song again, but I will do it anyway.
You sing well, Pia. It's okay.
I'm Pia Raug. I'm chair of one of the Danish authors' rights, one of the Danish composers' organizations, and at the same time, I'm the chair of the Danish Performing Rights Society at the moment. I will repeat the fact that there is no direct translation between the concept of authors' rights and copyright. And are you aware that while hating, for some good reasons, I must admit, hating the copyright corporate industry system, that you are throwing out the respect with the public, with the audience, towards authors' rights? That is the only protection that creators of any kinds of works have to prevent them from dying before their time. Are you aware of that?
Anyone?
I assume the question was directed at me.
Yes.
If I'm looking at the net today, I see a lot of respect for creativity. I see a lot of respect for creators, and I see tremendous respect for attribution. You are very correct in the fact that there is a distinction between economic rights and moral rights that perhaps has not been adequately addressed. And copyright is a complex concept. There are economic rights for monopolies of duplication of the work, of public performance. There are moral rights that says that a work must be attributed to the creator. There are moral rights that says the creator has a right to stop a public performance that infringes the integrity of the work or the integrity of the creator. That said, however, the copyright of the Anglo-Saxon tradition is mainly an economic one. And it's almost entirely for the benefit of the publishers. If we are looking at what's happening on the net today, a new generation of creators are growing up, and they are already seeing things in an entirely new light. 2/3 of the Pirate Party members are creators in one aspect or another, and they don't need to be convinced how to do things differently. They are already in this world.
Yeah?
Anybody else?
Anyone else like to comment on that? Or any other questions before we go for coffee? No? Thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.